Hey y'all, what's up? So I felt cold. Sure. Today is Halloween. The full moon happened approximately 7 hours ago. It happened at about like 10, we'll just say 10 o'clock Central Time, between 9 and 10 a.m. Central, US. Um, and I've been thinking like, oh, what cards can I pull? And there are these 1-2 decks that I was like, I could play with those together. But then I was in the shower earlier and I was like, well, you know, let's do a whole thing. So I've been Bohemian Stars and Ocean Heart readings is back uploading again. She's one of my faves over here. And I was like, oh, let me do a pick a card. I ain't done a pick a card in a minute. Usually I do them live, and it may not necessarily start as a pick a card, but then it turns into one. But I decided to pre-record this one to get all the shuffling out of the way. It took me quite a minute. And we're using accessories today. So pile one is going to be this dragon ring that I have. I bought it in a shop that had a gong, but the gong sold before I could get it, and that's where I started playing with the singing bowls. That's where I actually learned how to use them. The second one is just this bracelet. It's got like some lava stone in it and some something else. I don't remember. And the third one is this crawling stars earring that I literally just got today. Are they like gorgeous? I had a clear quartz there, but I ended up going with that. So timestamps are going to be in the description box. And, she's going to put in a little bit of effort today. And by a little bit of effort, I mean I'm going to timestamp and I'm also going to like pause the video. So check the timestamps and let's get into it. All right, pile one. If you chose pile one, this is where you begin. Literally right before I was about to hit play, my ear just started ringing, ringing, ringing. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm using the Spencer's tarot cards as the monster under your closet, the monster in your closet, under your bed, wherever. The Daemon Tarot is going to be the shadow influence. The Angelarium Oracle of Emanations, right? Yeah, Oracle of Emanations is going to be the light influence. And then the Archangel Power Tarot cards. Archangel Power cards is going to be the saving grace. Now, it seems that when I use the Daemon Tarot, very, 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 very rarely do I get one of the big bads. And so I always, or not always, but there is this sort of disclaimer about how sometimes what we expect to be the shadow influence isn't what actually holds us back. Sometimes it's the one that you least expected. It's the nicest out of the bunch, right? So let's get into this. I'm going to start with the light and the shadow aspects. And I'm going to be doing some reading today, so hoping that today's a good eye day. So for the light aspects, we have Malkuth and Hod. This is interesting because both of these are Saphira, right? They have a space in the Tree of Life. Hod is the left leg, submission. Malkuth is the ground, the kingdom. And I'm going to read these. So we have submission and the kingdom here as your light influences. And then everything is going to, well, let's just do it. We'll make it upright for you today. I was going to say it's going to be in reverse for you, but upright for me. And then you have Nikar. That's how we're pronouncing this, as the shadow influence. And I've gotten this card once because I remember I'm like, ooh. Actually, I don't think I got it. I think I ended up on the wrong page, or maybe I did get it. And I was like, I'm not gonna pronounce that. One of the other ways I could pronounce it, we're gonna call him Nikar. Okay, y'all can take that trolling mess elsewhere, please. So first, I'm gonna get into Malkuth and Hod, and then we'll see what's up with Nick. So Malkuth is the ground, the kingdom. This is Malkuth. Yeah, I had the overhead light on today. So, the 10th and final emanation, the physical world in which we live, the domain of mankind. Malkuth is an emanation of emanations, the culmination of the many aspects that form the tree of life. Everything, from our bodies to the experience we have in them to the world in which we exist, is Malkuth. The infinite space that expands across the universe is a manifestation of her. The boundless prismatic orb holds all the colors of the universe. At the feet of the tree, the ground stretches outward, forming a base. This is the space where Malkuth exists. She is beyond just being the lowest point. She is the foundation itself. Being the thing that we experience every moment in our lives, Malkuth contrasts clearly with Keter, whose existence is marked by its total unknowability. As with all things in the tree, one mirrors the other, forming a complete continuum through which we can understand the boundaries of existence, found in the earth, our bodies, and home. Hod. Hod is interesting because Hod is a god in the Norse pantheon who was actually responsible for killing Balder. Balder was the embodiment of light. And he was tricked by Loki. Balder was invincible, right? So every now and then everyone would get together and they would hit Balder with this weapon or that weapon and they would all fail. Because Balder was invincible, but the only thing he was weak to, his one weakness, was mistletoe. I can't remember how Loki found out that it was mistletoe, but Loki gave Hod a bow and arrow, and the arrows were tipped in mistletoe. Hod shot Balder at the party. He died, and that's one of the many things that will lead to Ragnarok. And then here's the world, here's Earth, and so there is this sort of Ragnarokian energy. There is this sort of trickster type energy. I think Freya was the mother of Balder. I mean, who else would it be? I think Freya was the mother of Balder, and she was like really upset. I don't remember all of the mythology, but I do know that Hod, because I looked it up last time I saw Hod, and Hod was responsible for killing Balder, deceived by Loki. So, oh, here's Hod right here too. Left leg submission. Now that Hod is probably different. That Hod is different than the emanation in the Tree of Life, of course. The eighth emanation, the force that abides. Hod is what guides us when we surrender ourselves to the flow of fate and let destiny guide our motion. Through her light, we see the boundlessness of glory. Waving our hands through the wind, we feel the air pull us upward. It's only by resigning ourselves to the forces around us that we truly experience the nature of those forces. The golden orb shines a radiant light upon our shoulders. Supporting the pillar of severity, Hod does not press back against the weight of the tree. Instead, she simply lets it pass through her, flowing like water down into the lowest portion of the diagram. Through the two opposing characteristics of Hod and Netza, or Netza, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry y'all, relinquishing and resisting, we gain the power to move. Together they form the power to carry ourselves through the world with grace and intention, found in prayer, nature, and mysteries. And so I feel like there's just this, as we live these incarnate experiences, sometimes we can't see why certain tragedies would happen or why bad things happen, especially to good people. But with the part about submitting to destiny, like in the space of Ragnarok, Balder is fated to come back. Something will be returned. What is lost will be returned. What is missing will be replaced. Nothing ventured, nothing gained is kind of different than the other things, but maybe that's us surrendering our comfort. Maybe we're being led to surrender what we view as stability, but in reality, it could put us in a position to thrive or be evacuated from a space before things fall apart. Because with Malkuth being both our body and our experiences and the world around us, but with our consciousness being limited to our body, it is this feeling of the knowing that exists outside of you and being led by that knowing. Now let's see what Nikki is about. So the shadow influence here, the inspiration behind this one is, although in some folktales Nickies rescue drowning children or give safe passage across the water, far more stories focus on their ability to lure sailors into rocks or rapids, much like the mythology associated with the sirens, and to cause great tempests, whirlpools, and storms. However, sailing, fishing, and exploration were a very important part of human life, and so the risks of confronting a Nicky on a voyage had to be weighed against the benefits of fresh food and new discoveries. Sailors took all possible precautions against the mischievous or evil water demons they might encounter, and all were cautioned to be humble and thankful to any good or helpful Nickies. But ships continued to sail the rivers and oceans of the Old World, despite the dangers the Nickies might offer. The divination here says, focus on taking necessary precautions and respecting powerful outside influences. I like this. This is very foreboding, though. It's very foreboding. I mean, talking about Hod killing Baldur, Baldur was the embodiment of light. If the shadow was cast over the cards, I'm sorry. I'll hold it back next time, but I gotta be able to read this, y'all. I'm using the overhead light, okay? But that's not all they did. So there is this almost temperamental type energy, and it was to be respectful. And it would be so wild if this is the Six of Cups, because the Six of Cups in the other deck is, one second, y'all. One moment. All right, we're back. I mean, like virtually no time passed for you, but I still feel obliged to apologize. Sorry about that. So there is this energy of the natural ebb and flow of life and submitting to that flow. And also with the Nickies, there's this energy of like, if we don't have a certain respect or reverence for certain things that maybe we should at least respect, then it has the ability to get us where it hurts the most. Because our water travel isn't necessarily as big as it was back in the day, but new discoveries and fresh food, your ability to sustain yourself and to discover new things falls in the territory of something that either saves innocence or causes storms. And I just want to look really quick. Drowning children or give safe passage across the water. Yeah. So it has the ability to do that if you submit to these forces. It's almost like what do they call them? The cootie. It's not a cootie catcher. No, the cootie catchers. That's the other things. The things where you put your fingers in, or like quicksand. Like the more you struggle, the harder it is. It's only by submitting that you get through it. There's a very like Uranian tower sort of energy here. But if you can flow with it, it will take what it needs to take and it will grant you safe passage. It's almost like there's something that you're carrying that you need to let go of. And the Nikki is going to try to take it. And if you resist, then it's going to use force. And I was going to say it would be really interesting if this is the Six of Cups, because in this deck, the Six of Cups is Guinea or Jenny Greenteeth, and she drowns children for whatever reason. But Nikki saves drowning children. Oh, well, it's the Queen of Cups, the Gorgon. This is the monster in your closet. The monster in your closet, under your bed, or wherever, is the Gorgon, the Queen of Cups. And her story is also interesting because she was coveted by men, and it was said that she was more beautiful than some goddess, and some goddess didn't like that, so turned, with Medusa at least, into the Gorgon, into a monster who turns men into stone. And it's interesting because at the bottom of the deck is the basilisk, and this is the only deck that I looked at the bottom of as I put it away. And the basilisk is another creature that has the ability to turn things into stone, as well as with the cockatrice. Um, but with this Queen of Cups, again, she is the most intuitive queen. She's the minor high priestess, or she's pre-high priestess energy. Because I guess, I don't know, court cards aren't fully minors. She's pre-high priestess energy because she is that connected. So I think her ability to flow and to be submissive, even in the space of difficulty and challenge, or not knowing, is what's gonna be what makes it easier for her to navigate this. This is almost like, it's like Gremlins, right? The Mogwai. I've only seen the movie one time, so if I mispronounce it or forget the story, sorry. But the Mogwai only becomes a gremlin if you don't follow certain rules, right? And it's very much that energy of like, it comes to you with benevolence, and if you can allow to be what is to be in this world, to get you into the new set of experiences that you have queued up, it'll be a much easier, a much smoother transition, a much safer passage. But if there are things that you resist, and it's almost like with turning something into stone, it's that petrification, it's that lack of movement. If you don't move when you're told to, again, if this is about evacuating a tower type of energy, if you stay in it, then it's going to fall around you. And so, whatever your intuition has been pushing you towards, I would say do it for sure, because we're coming into this period where it's like as Saturn and Jupiter both move into Aquarius. The game is going to change a little bit, right? It's like there was the rough season, there was the season of work, if we're talking about the Seven of Pinnacles, and we're coming upon the season of harvest. But harvest is going to work a little different this year, like a whole bunch of other things. And so it's like this keep your ear to the ground type of energy. And it's like an ear of corn that's so heavy it's fallen over. The stalk can't support it. And there's also this energy of like stock markets striking while the iron is hot, because it's like maybe you do want to wait for it to grow more, but if you wait too long, it's gonna crumble under its own weight. So also a need to not be too greedy with this, right? To not be too aggressive with the way that you go about getting the things that you want, because it may turn something off or turn someone off. It may turn this safe passage into a tempest. Because respect. There's something about respect here. Respect, submission, and understanding. Now, the saving grace here is the Six of Raphael. No drowning children. This is the energy of the Six of Cups. So it didn't come out over here, it came out over here. So no children are drowning. I think this Nikki is. It's a more beneficent Nikki. It has the ability to be. The Six of Raphael says, embrace your inner child, new friends or rekindled relationships, children or childhood. There is a certain innocence here. There's almost this energy, especially with the Queen of Cups being as intuitive as she is, almost this energy of like, I'm too old to believe in fairy tales, or it's just folk legend. That's what they say. How many Halloween movies do they say that in? And then the myths end up being true. It's to remain open and not to be impressionable, but to be guided. There's a Six of Swords energy here as well, but it's in the background. The Six of Swords is it's hidden in Malkuth, and so it's like it's coming in on the wind, it's coming through the waves, the birds, nature is communicating this to you in very subtle ways that may be easy to miss. But if you remain open, I think you're going to be guided exactly where it is that you're going. And I know this isn't necessarily like super concrete, but I don't think it's supposed to be, especially for this one, because of that submission. And it's the leg of the pillar of severity. I think that's it. So I'm going to move on. And I hope you'll have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make better days your reality because it's possible. And for those who believe in miracles, miraculous things are much, much, much more likely to occur. So there you go. Happy full moon, blue moon, Taurus moon, conjuncted Uranus. Woo! Change, change. All right. So group two, pile two, bracelet group. If you pick the bracelet, I'm kind of sort of low key a little, I don't know, surprised. It's interesting though because your timestamp is 2143. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, but all jumbled up. Actually, it's higher before lower, and then the colon higher before lower. And as I was like shuffling, oh well, I guess I didn't give much of a spiel too much at the beginning, so I gotta do that again. And so we're going to be using the Archangel Power cards to look at your saving grace. We're going to be using the Angelarium Oracle of Emanations to look at a light aspect. I believe that's that aspect, right? I'm pretty sure I did. Influence, a lighter influence. We're going to be using the Daemon Tarot for a shadow influence. And then the Spencer's Tarot cards. It's a novelty deck, but I love it. As the monster or monsters in the closet. And whenever I use these two, especially this, I don't get the big bads from the Daemon Tarot. It's usually some kind of like folk um, god or energy, like an Inuit god that it's about like it works with hunters and like fishing and stuff like that. Or it may be like Kali. It was like Kali, they turned Kali into a demon. Ra is in here as a demon. A lot of stuff was demonized. You know, but it's not always bad for me. More often than not, like way more often than not, it's not. Um, but yeah, I was doing the influence, and I said affluence instead of influence, and I was like, oh, that's interesting because affluence that's about like money, right? You may have Taurus in your chart, you might not. I mean, it is a blue moon in Taurus. Hey Siri, define affluence.
Affluence means the state of having a great deal of money, wealth.
Yep, the state of having a great deal of money or wealth. So where are we going to start? We're going to start over here this time. So we're starting with the Four of Cups, the Ghoul, as the monster in your closet, under the bed, down the street, around the corner, living in that house that you pass by but nobody goes in. The Four of Cups, the Ghoul. This is interesting because the Ghoul for me, it's honestly I don't know too much the difference between a Ghoul and a zombie. But a Ghoul is like it's a reanimated dead thing, right? It's like undead. The Four of Cups typically is something that we've rejected in the past, but it's coming back to haunt us. It feels like this is related to something that we tried to cover up. Oh, why it just get this dark? Maybe it's not this dark. Let's see what this is and see if I need to lighten up a little bit. Here we have Amadeus. So maybe you weren't great. Amadeus. It sounds like I am a D-bag, kinda, without the bag. Um, but it may not even, maybe you were impressionable. Maybe somebody convinced you to do something that you took the fall for. And because of that, it limits your ability to move forward. I think Amadeus is about music, though, because I've saw this one a long time ago, like when I first got this deck. I honestly don't even really use this because even me, I don't even know why I got this. The person I went with, he's like into dark stuff, and I was like, oh, like I don't know, but I do on occasion. I enjoy it. The inspiration here is: at first, it seems as if Amadeus has a very simple gift: invisible instruments and dancing trees. But when we think for a moment about the poetic nature of many of the early demonologists, it is possible that Amadeus may control something that is more than beautiful: the wind. Oh. The swaying, dancing trees are a hint to his potential power. What other invisible force causes the forests to bend? Anyone who has walked on a blustery day while the trees whisper and the power lines hum can easily imagine where, if Amadeus does control the winds, the invisible instruments come from. Focus on musical endeavors, including composition and musical inspiration, is the divination with Amadeus. So this feels like a puppeting energy. With the Four of Cups and the Ghoul, there's almost this energy of like someone vicariously living through you. So the dreams that died for them, or whatever they didn't get, they want you to live out. Or it's almost like vice versa. Like since things didn't work out for them, then they don't want things to work out for you. And speaking of music, this is so interesting because a minute ago, a few weeks ago, I randomly like saw something about Sia pop up on my YouTube feed, and I clicked on it, and she talked about how her dad was a struggling musician, and how his musical career never took off, and so he held a little bit of envy for the success that she found, and she offered to help him, but he turned it down. And with that being her father, there's a certain amount of attention, respect, approval that she wanted from him. And I didn't watch the whole thing, granted. It's what she wanted from him, but she never got because he was envious of her. And so it caused her to develop in ways that she didn't necessarily have to. It caused her to maybe even feel responsible for some of the things that she shouldn't have had to. And so that controlled some of what she did. And maybe even affected her, not her ability, but her desire, maybe even sometimes, to really put herself out there or to create, maybe even potentially led her to feeling bad about her success. But that's not hers to carry. And when can we see the wind? That's the question that just popped into my mind. It's when do we see the wind? Because it feels like there's this invisible force, but if you look at it, the force isn't too invisible. And maybe something down here will illuminate it for us, for you. I mean, music and affluence. You know, Sia's pretty successful, right? She got some kind of money. I'm assuming. Also, I think she talked about like not great mental health and substance abuse because of at least instigated or triggered by her relationship with her father. And so also there's this energy here of maybe not being able to enjoy the sweeter things for whatever reason. Maybe you feel guilty, very like was that Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, the new one with Johnny Depp question mark? When he was a child, he wasn't allowed to eat candy, and it was like candy was evil, and then eventually he became, Willy Wonka. I don't remember where that was coming from, but something that was supposed to be sweet, you were sort of tainted against or turned against. The cards you got are here. We have Shalegiel, Angel of Snow, and Aziraphale, Angel of Song. Is Snow Song a thing? I don't think Snow Song is a thing. These are very, like, you could be into the arts. You could be musical. You could be artistic. And maybe you didn't pursue it in the past. Maybe it's a dream of yours that has died, but it's coming back to haunt you, but to haunt you in a way that isn't supposed to be frightening, right? So maybe you do feel more and more dissatisfied with what you're doing in life. And maybe you are getting more interested in being creative again, but you're like, there's no real stability in that. And maybe through the course of this year, with everything that's happened, excuse me, you've had a little bit more time to get creative again. Maybe you don't think that you're good enough for other people to enjoy, but I would say put yourself out there anyway, because you never know. And somebody said it might have been Bohemian Stars and Ocean Heart readings. It might have been the Tarot Hottie. I don't remember, honestly. But somebody said recently, I think it was Hemi. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Hemi. Bohemian Stars and Ocean Heart readings. She said that to be creative is a gift, and to reserve your creativity is to do the world a disservice in some ways. Maybe it wasn't her, I think it was. And it's like us putting what we create out into the world is a way of keeping that energy exchange present, and to indulge in the creativity of others, but to not put out your own is to be almost like a taker, or to break that receptivity that keeps everything turning and moving. There's also this feeling of like going through these hardships in the past and processing it through music. And once you put it out, it's like your music inspires other people going through similar things. Or your art. It doesn't have to be music, it could be any form of creativity. Can help heal others as well. Or to at least make them feel like they're not so alone. And with Aziraphale and Shalegiel, it's like bringing purity or innocence back to a situation, right? Because maybe you were innocent until a certain point where someone else did something and it caused great trauma within you. And when we're young and things happen, sometimes we blame ourselves. Or even when we're older, it's like if something happens to us before we have the mental capacity to understand it, it makes the first experience in that realm traumatic. If the first experience we have in a certain arena is traumatic and beyond our ability to comprehend, then it almost creates these doors, these black walls. I don't know what a black wall is, but it creates these black walls that we can't navigate around or even see, right? Because if it's something that we've never experienced, it is a certain space of darkness. And with the black wall, it's like you can't necessarily differentiate the wall from the dark around you. If it was like, a neon wall or a glow in the dark wall, you would see it, right? Or it would be easier to see. I mean, it could be a white wall in an area that's full of snow, and you would get the same effect. It can be a green wall or a sky colored wall or a scenic wall in the midst of a scene. Something where we can't differentiate the limitation from the environment. Now let's get into both of these. We'll start with Aziraphale. Honestly, we'll go to whichever one I find first. Hold up. Sandalfine. Manuel. Is Sandalfine the last one? Yep, I literally turned right to the last page. Nice. I think Aziraphale is somewhere around here. I think Aziraphale is not too far from Sandalfine. But I could be wrong. I am known to be wrong on occasion. I am human. Here's Shalegiel, Angel of Snow. Let's start with her. Is she right here? So, the bravery of happiness in the face of sadness. Yes! The bravery of happiness in the face of sadness. Happiness that stands against the stark cold and does not shiver. The winter is heralded by the fall of snow, as Shalegiel dances, each step as unique as the snowflakes that frolic about this angel. The quiet reveler of winter, Shalegiel moves over the rime, a bright and joyous visage amidst a harrowing landscape. Its presence brings relief to those who seek escape from an overburdened world. Take refuge from what ails you. It is time to recover. A snowflake, a seed, and a pine tree are the signs of Shalegiel. And I love that we have the music here, we have the dance here. This is like Thriller vibes with the ghoul back here. This is Thriller! But honestly, it reminds me of there's this one episode of Bob's Burgers where Boys Now? Is that their name? There's this boy band on Bob's Burgers, and they have this one Thriller-esque video where they're all chasing this girl, and at the end of the video, the girl turns into a monster as well, and they're all dancing and having fun, right? So now let's move on to Aziraphale. I believe Aziraphale's only, she's literally right here. Love it. The Angel of Song. Aziraphale. Look at all the music. Dancing, music. Thriller. Not trying to get flagged. Even though I can't monetize anyway. Hey, maybe one day I'll try to put a little ad on this video, and because I just said Thriller, they're not going to let me have it. The Herald. Another Herald. Okay. The herald that will call the coming of end times. Aziraphale is a presence, a beacon, a warning. Heated judgment is upon us. The horn that blows the final call rests against the flesh of Aziraphale's lips, if even it is flesh. Aziraphale is both melody and the cacophony of existence. Songs can be soft and warm, especially when they end. Under the serene score of creation, the danger of total destruction is hidden. Beyond that destruction may be a new beginning. You must consider the implications of your actions seriously. Choose your steps wisely as you dance upon the cinder-soft earth. A horn, the setting sun, and a flame are the signs here. So Shalegiel dances upon the snow, which is cold. It's a happiness that does not shiver. Aziraphale dances upon cinder-soft earth after the cleansing of fire. There's just like two of Pinnacles-y, balancy type energy here, but I think it is this choice. I feel like, again, there's this energy of putting whatever this ghoul type, whatever is coming back as this ghoul, either putting it to rest if it's something negative, that if it's if it's something that negatively impacts you, it's about putting it to rest. If it is the rebirth of these dreams, if you've become this ghoul because there is no music, there is no song, there is no dance in your life, then it's about singing and dancing and being alive again. I guess we have our saving grace to sort of help differentiate for us. And it's the Six of Michael. This is interesting because for a pile one, we got the Six of Cups, Six of Raphael. Now we have the Six of Michael. There's the six energy. Six is being a number of harmony, but harmony in a space where everything is so chaotic, such as life, it is a victory. It is a victory to be at peace within yourself when at least the systems around us try to have us sort of pick ourselves apart and create this conflict and contention within ourselves, so then it can profit off of that or control us based upon that. And that victory coming in mostly through a Six of Wands, but that victory sort of carries out throughout the other ones as well. Six of Pentacles, Six of Swords, Six of Wands, and in the Six of Cups, maybe in an emotional way, it's this victory over our past, where maybe if there wasn't a lot of light there, it's about being able to at least put the dark to rest or into perspective and to see the light that was there. So anyway, Six of Michael for you. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. Speaking of light, breathe a sigh of relief and make new plans, relocation or travel. So whatever this is, you have the ability, the choice to bring light and levity to this. Right? And the thing about troubled waters is that they don't necessarily go deep, or we don't know how deep troubled waters run. And I know boats are about sailing over the water, but since we're in Scorpio season, we also have to talk about the underlying influences, right? We don't know how deep troubled waters run. So if you go deep enough, if you have the ability to go deep enough, you may find that part of you that is still somehow miraculously unaffected. The part of you that still hopes even though you've known nothing but disappointment. The part of you, I just saw Coco last night for the first time. The part of you that dares to be a musician, speaking of musicians, and like dead things with the ghoul, or undead things, or interacting with the dead as if they weren't dead, I guess. Being defiant. I kind of lost that train of thought, honestly. um, Finding that piece of you that resonates true, regardless of what is put upon you, right? And how Miguel was like, it's in me. And it took several generations for that song to be reborn. There's a lot of water that those troubled waters ran deep, but eventually came the time where its impact stretched no further. And there's very much this energy of like, we as human beings are these observers that sit behind the driver's seat at our center. But closer and closer to the surface, and here comes the mental, the emotional, everything, the conditioning, the responses, the practice behaviors and routines and patterns. But under all of that, the peace is still there. And so there is this energy of like, the song of the soul is calling for transformation. It's calling for levity, it's calling for renewed innocence through the space of inspiration, creation, and expression. And so, honestly, I would say try to switch it up a little bit. If you are feeling down and you listen to music that suits that down mood, maybe one time just try finding something that elevates your mood and elevates your spirit, or find something that reminds you that tragedy and misery is not all that there is to life. And I know sometimes when we're down in the dumps, we feel a sense of companionship or kindredness or an understanding of the mood that we're in when we're in it, but sometimes in the moment it allows those troubled waters to run even deeper. Either way, though, I feel like it's time for you to reclaim your song and the power of your innocence through the space of creativity. And innocence might not necessarily be, I don't think innocence is the word that I want. It's about an authentic expression of the self, right? And it's innocence when it is what it is without being tainted by the world around it or the viewpoint, the perspective of those around it. Innocence, it's a pure expression of the self. So get out there and dance. It may move you further along than you would think. So that's what I got for you. Again, I don't necessarily quite know what these are, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we don't know right now, and there's a lot of stuff that we're not gonna know right now because it is new beginnings. It's once in a blue moon. Who would expect any of this to happen? And if we're of the mindset of, oh, it's too good to be true, it's not going to last, I'm not good enough, or I'll fail, it it's us selling ourselves short and missing out on these things that have, and I think that's the relocation or travel with this. It's successfully navigating this space of transition between realities. This is that old reality, and you're coming into the new, and you have the opportunity to come into a new one full of song and dance and life and levity and joy, but you have to choose it and you have to act in accordance with that choice. So, I mean, maybe you could end up being a successful musician because it might have been here. It was either here or there because this is the shadow influence, this is the light influence, but I said affluence instead of influence, and I was like, oh, but they both have this musical sort of message. And music is also about harmonies, it's about flow, where even if two chords don't necessarily resonate maybe by themselves in the context of an accompaniment, and I don't really know music, so I hope I'm using that correctly, but in the context of the rest of the score, in the context of the piece of work as a whole, that discordance finds a way to be harmonious. It reminds me of like an opera or something that tells a story. And a story isn't necessarily always high. Hopefully, it's not always low. But it's the balance, it's the dance between them that moves the spirit, that moves the soul. And it's like, if you're, I feel like music is one of those sort of effortless mediums. I want to say mediums, but I know the plural of medium is media. I feel like music is one of those effortless mediums where we can really move people without, well, the effort is all on the back end, I'm sure, but it's like through the space of music, even without lyrics, you can convey feelings, you can convey emotions. And a lot of times when we score things, if we score a movie, if we score a TV show or whatever, we pick music that evokes certain feelings and we pair it with certain scenes, right? Where let's say that there's a character that you don't necessarily care for, or there's a situation that you and your set of experiences wouldn't know to code as sad. But because sad music is playing, you know that you should feel bad, right? And maybe that's another thing back here. Maybe there is some manipulation back here where it's like, and I kind of sort of talked about that earlier about these things that should be sweet being made sour, or not being able to, not given permission to experience the sweetness. And it's like, I shouldn't feel bad in this situation, but sad music is playing. So I know that I should. That's those invisible strings. It's when we're naturally moved by these forces that are used in unnatural ways. It makes it counter, it's like it counterbalances this. But at the end of the day, I feel like whatever brings you joy, whatever your path forward, whatever your mode of expression is, go for it. Maybe do it with a little bit of, I want to say integrity for some reason, but maybe do it with a little bit of wisdom, right? Like if you're upset with somebody, you might not necessarily want to put their name in the song if you write a song, right? But at the end of the day, it's your life, right? I'd say tap more into your creative side. It's all about flow. It's more about flow than anything. Six of Swords. It's about flow and navigation and movement and rhythm and the melody. And it's time for you to score your own life, to score and compose your own life. So this is what I have for you. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make it even better. Because for those who believe in miraculous things are much, much, much more likely to occur. And for those who act in accordance, it's even more likely. So I'll catch y'all when I catch y'all. Bye bye. Pile 3, welcome in. If you chose this little crawling earring of stars, almost looks like a little tiara. Oh, you can see it a little better now. Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Oh my gosh, I love it. Um, let's get into this. So, I used the Archangel Power cards as your saving grace, in whatever way that is. I used the Angelarium, Oracle of Emanations as the light influence. I used the Daemon Tarot as the shadow influence, and as you can see, pile 3 got a lot. There's typically at least one pile that is super extra. And I was gonna shuffle this live, but I didn't for two reasons. First, because it would make this video unnecessarily long. Secondly, because I knew something like this would happen. And I was like, if something like this, ooh, this one's in reverse. We'll note that. That's interesting. It has an opposite orientation to the other two. But I'm gonna turn them all up right for you. I was like, if someone sees that, then they may be inclined to pick the one that has more cards. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Not. So let's just get the big ones out of the way first, shall we? So on the opposite sides, we have Flavros and Paimon. I did talk about these. Also, sometimes I do give a little bit of a disclaimer, I guess. I don't typically get the big boys in the Damon Tarot. Usually it's ones that are quite neutral, maybe a little trickstery, like they could go either way. They could hinder or help. Or they may just be like some deities that were from other cultures that were later demonized, because anything that is not of A is evil. So if it's B, C, D, E, G, Z, J, don't matter. If it ain't A, it ain't right. So like Ra is in here, Kali is in here. There's like a hunter deity, like shaped like a bear, that help, like that blessed like Inuit hunters and like their fishing endeavors or something like that in here. This, it isn't always bad, and sometimes it's the things that we fear that don't hinder us as much as the things that we cling on to, or the things that we put our trust and our faith in. Now that may not necessarily be the case here, but it's just worth noting sometimes that, things could be funny that way. So let's start with Flavros. I think I've seen this one before, but I have no clue what it means. Okay, I don't know. So the inspiration. The inspiration here says Flavros is said to be a liar who will beguile those who conjure him and try to coerce them under his command. He can, however, be bound within a magical triangle in which he will only tell the truth. However, that seems to be a test as far as Flavros is concerned. Okay. Once he is properly bound within the requisite triangle, he is very glad to be of help and more than willing to converse about heaven and hell and about the military campaigns during the Great War in heaven that led to Satan and his followers being cast out. It is as if he lies to those he does not believe worthy or prepared for his presence. But once satisfied, he will give his full assistance and attention to them. The divination here is focus on unlikely allies. People that we may distrust can be honest in certain situations. Well, speaking of what I was just talking about how what you fear sometimes being more helpful than what you consider to be your greatest aid and assistance. Sometimes it can just be in the way of enabling. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything too crazy, right? It's like, we use something as a crutch to the point where we don't progress or proceed where we need to. It enables us instead of helping us really progress forward. But there's this interesting energy. It's like, if you're dumb, or it reminds me of Bob's Burgers. The first time I think we meet Mr. Frond, and Linda is talking to Mr. Frond, and I think it's the episode where Bob gets trapped in the wall. And Louise was telling everybody that her dad had died and he was haunting the restaurant. Um, and Mr. Frond was like, "What? Your husband's alive?" Like, Louise said that she was dead, and then Linda started laughing, and she was like, Louise lies to people that she thinks are dumb or something like that. um, But I feel like, honestly, with some of this is what we do to ourselves, and this is an energy that I've been feeling a lot lately. Where when we're unwilling to face the harsh truth, the ugly truths, the darker sides of reality, when we complicitly allow them to be what they are, it drags your whole experience down. Ignorance in this case is not bliss. You can be blissfully unaware, but it, like, if all you want to do is be lied to for your peace of mind or whatever, you sacrifice a lot in doing that. And there is this, like with the campaign between heaven and hell in that war, and his ability to sort of be able to tell you which is which. There is this energy of navigating transitions and knowing basically the tides in which way things are going to go. But again, if you're not willing to see the ugliness for what it is, your attention is divine. Without your attention, it's not that things can't change, but it's like sometimes things are brought to your attention to be changed. And to reject it is to leave it as is. So how are you going to move into a space that's any brighter? Like the space that you're moving to isn't brighter because you're ignoring the darkness. That's not how that works. I don't know. Well, I mean, there's more cards to look at, so we'll see. Next is Paimon, and I think I've heard of Paimon before. I watched Blue Exorcist, and there were a few demons that came out, like Mammon being the demon of greed. Well, there's a character named Mammon. So the inspiration for Paimon is Paimon's areas of expertise are many. He is knowledgeable in the arts and sciences, philosophy, and events of the past, present, and future. So here's one that can tell you sort of how things are going in the campaign. Here's another one that's knowledgeable in the events of the past, present, and future. When Paimon is summoned, he is preceded first by a line of trumpeters to announce his appearance, followed by a line of those under his command, then a clang of cymbals and other musical instruments, and finally he will appear riding his camel very slowly into view. After that grand entrance, Paimon is very arrogant and loud, and it may take some time for the summoner to attract his undivided attention to pose questions or requests. However, Paimon is very knowledgeable, and it is perhaps understandable that he manifests in such an ostentatious manner, out of missing the glory of his former heavenly incarnation. If you can bear with his admittedly long-winded and abrasive entrance, his gifts can be worth the time and effort. Divination here is, beware of unfavorable first impressions. Many intelligent and knowledgeable individuals are awkward or abrasive at first. As a defense mechanism, one should watch for those actions within oneself. Ooh, that's like before you cast the stone at somebody else, how about you look at you? This is interesting because both of these energies are knowledgeable, but both are a pain. What's in the middle? In the middle is Furfur. And I believe Furfur has the ability to cause like storms and stuff like that. So this is like the conflict in between all of this knowledge and knowing and stuff like that. But let me actually make sure, because I might have accidentally read the wrong one. Yeah, well, we'll see. Because I think maybe I was like reading Forcus and I ended up on Furfur, or I was reading Furfur and I ended up on Forcus. I don't remember. We'll read it so I don't have to. So, Furfur. Furfur is said to be able to create storms and tempests, incite passions, and cause lightning to strike and thunder to shake the land wherever the conjurer requests. It would seem that, in conjunction with Furfur's rakish name, his gifts are destructive and cruel. However, Furfur's other gift is the ability to strengthen the bond between married couples into something unbreakable and eternal. So, we see that Furfur's gift for stirring passion and excitement can be used for destruction when used in excess, but it can be one of the most valuable tools when used in moderation. Of course, relationships should be built on trust that doesn't require a magical triangle. So, Furfur's gift should be considered with judgment. Divination here is focus on enduring love and passion. Beware of strong emotions becoming destructive. Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's interesting. Because it is the Blue Lunar Storm year now, as of July 26th or 27th. I think the 26th is the new year. So we're now in the year of the Blue Lunar Storm. And with everything that's happened in this world, and everything that's happened in the world in this year, especially with a lot of the uncertainty earlier in the year. Not that things are necessarily any more certain now, but we're certainly treating them as if they are. Um, well, life is always uncertain and chaotic and unknown. But there was this like everyone was connecting to everybody, right? A lot of people were connecting to a lot of people over Zoom, and it was that energy of like we don't have to be physically connected to be connected. With this day and age, we can find connection in so many things that we do. And would we prefer physical? Yeah, sure, but maybe it was an opportunity to discover that some bonds run deeper than that, and some bonds are a lot shallower. But in the space of everything happening, where it's more difficult, it seems like it's more difficult to get an answer or to get clarity, where there's just like chaos and storms and tempests brewing all over the place. I feel like this is a call for us to still ourselves within this, even when it's difficult, and to find that peace within ourselves. Because again, as mentioned with Paimon, sometimes it's worth sitting through the unbearable fanfare of his arrival. And with Flavros, it is to approach situations with a certain something. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's to approach the situation in a way that lets life and others know that you are to be taken seriously and that you take them seriously. Because if he can, he'll just lie to you. He'll lie and lie. You'll summon him and end up working for him. It was like, what? How that work? Right? It's like I ain't got to get all the way into it, but it's like, let's say if for some reason, like you call somebody over for some help, and they're like, yeah, sure, like I'll come over and help you, and then you end up helping them, and they leave, and you're like, wait, you were supposed to help me, hello, and now I still got to do all the stuff I had to do. Like what? And so honestly, with the shadow influence here, it's like the shadows are only dark when you refuse to face them, and when they're in the dark, they cause chaos and confusion. But if you could sit down and sort through it, it would bring clarity to this. And again, with like Furfur has the gift to strengthen love and do whatever, but shouldn't love be built upon, I don't know, trust and things like that? That's what the cards say. It. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. As long as you're divisive, you are a tool to be used by whoever. People who don't even care about you. People will use people's bigotry and hatred to just puppet them into doing all kinds of stuff, and they will laugh. And what is it? is bringing to mind something where it's like somebody really thought that somebody cared about them, but they didn't. Oh, it was this one show I was watching. I watched the show on Netflix. That's the most recent example I have, back in February when I was on my spiritual retreat before everything shut down. It was nice. And there was this one person who experienced a lot of pain and also ostracization. And he was manipulated by someone who he thought was his only friend. Turns out by the end, that person didn't care about him. Not only did that person not care about him, the person ended up killing him. And it's like, when you're so blinded by those things, if you are that gullible and that easy to take advantage of, some energies will take advantage of you. And they will make you think that they are helping you, but in reality, all you're doing is furthering their own agenda. And as soon as you are not useful, they will dispose of you. And so sometimes it is harder to really sit down and look and observe and see if you are being really valued and appreciated, or if you're being manipulated. And I feel like that's how easily this passion can sort of sway either way, between storms and war, or companionship and peace. It's to not be so fiery that someone can hold up a piece of tinder to you. You catch that on fire, and then they throw you wherever they want to spread that fire. The light aspect we have is Yesod, which is the root, which is the connection. Yesod is one of the emanations. I believe it's the ninth emanation. And this is interesting. Yesod. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these right. I feel like that goes without mention. I mean, if I pronounce it wrong, then obviously I don't know how to pronounce it right. If I knew how to pronounce it right, I would. Yesod is actually the, and I was literally thinking about this before I came live before I recorded this, because, like I said, he's the title art for this Angelarium, and I got him once, and I was like, whoa, like that's an actual card, because I'd never gotten him before, and here he is coming out now. So, Yesod is the ninth emanation, the foundation that supports the world and forms the gateway between the spiritual and the physical. Yesod is the medium through which we experience the tree of life. Upon his shoulders rests the sky, and all that lies beyond it runs through his fingers. We stand at this doorway and peer through, seeking answers to our nature. Through the indigo orb, a gateway appears. I don't even know if you can see this. Oh, you can. Okay. As a single column again, the flow of energy through the tree only moves downward. Yesod is the last stop before moving into the fully physical realm. He is the looking glass through which we examine ourselves, found in new life, speech, and a doorway. And it's interesting that speech is there, because it almost sort of gives us that sacred nature of the breath, right? Speech is a doorway. This is very like a very rhetorical energy. It reminds me of, I was taking rhetoric. It was actually in college, so it wasn't in high school, because I took rhetoric in high school, but it wasn't in high school. It was one of my college English freshman classes, one of my freshman English classes. There we go. And it was talking about, we were talking about maybe ethos, logos, and pathos. I don't remember. And how orators used to use those and use rhetoric back in the day, and how powerful of a tool rhetoric is. And that's why some politicians can use certain rhetoric to whip people into a frenzy or to guide people towards the energy of seeking understanding and unity. It can be divisive or unifying. And how the power of word is immense. And it's one of the oldest things we have, or one of the oldest ways we have of communicating information, right? Like stories used to be told of how the world came into being and stuff like that. Before it was written down, it was passed by mouth. And so it is one of the oldest ways that we have. Storytelling is immense, immensely powerful. That's why the media has the presence or the ability that it has. And it's like, it makes sense in some ways because it's like if you haven't personally experienced something, if you have absolutely no knowledge about something, whenever you encounter it, all you have is what you've heard or what you've come across or what you've experienced. But in some ways, it robs us of our ability to form our opinions for ourselves. And sometimes we think we're doing it, and we're not really. And sometimes we do get that opportunity. But even when we do form our own opinions, that information is still in the back of our minds. So I feel like a lot of this is about information. And further in the middle is that, again, it's the dividing force or the uniting force. So the monster in the closet here is the Page of Cups, the satyr. And the satyr is playing that pan flute. I feel like with the energy of the Page of Cups, there is this innocence, but with that musical instrument, it's the ability to be swayed in one way or another, related to what I was just talking about. And, Pisces, the water sign of Pisces, is associated with both the other side of the veil and music and creativity, poetry, and expression. And so there is a certain responsibility that we have whenever we're put in a position to introduce something to someone, especially introducing something to someone because, again, they're impressionable. It's almost like this Pied Piper of Hamelin type energy. Why is this the monster in the closet, though? I feel like there is no monster in the closet here. And with these shadow influences, if there is a monster in your closet, it's probably related to something that somebody else told you. It's like, oh, be careful about that. Watch out for that. And sometimes, there's that classic trope of the older sibling telling the younger sibling about a monster just to scare them or whatever. But since the young mind is so impressionable, it can actually conjure a monster. And maybe that's what the shadow side of this Flavros energy has done. For those who it can deceive, it uses this furfur energy to cause them to drum up these tempests and storms. How else do you think Flavros knows so much about what goes on both sides? It's like Flavros plays both sides of the field. For those who are knowledgeable and aware, it guides them to one side, for those who aren't, and or for those who it can take advantage of. And it's sometimes, again, it's not about being ignorant. Was that here or was that before? I think it was here. Yeah, with Furfur. Sometimes it's not about being ignorant. Sometimes it's just about having too strong of an emotion to see anything else, to allow yourself to be blind and to be taken advantage of. And that's the monster in your closet. There is no monster there. There was no monster there. But because you were impressionable, this energy had you create a monster. The saving grace here is the Knight of Ariel, the Knight of Pinnacles, which is about be realistic. Does it make sense for this creature to exist or to be able to do this or to be able to do that? No. It's powered by our fear. Whatever this is, it's powered by fear. And the more realistically you look at things, the less this has. And again, that's being practical. For those who are practical, Flavros cannot do that because they see through the holes. Also, the Knight of Pentacles would be the one that summons him correctly in the first place. The Knight of Pentacles would also be the one that knows that suffering through the entrance of Paimon is worth it to get the information that he gives. And the Knight of Pentacles would also be the one who doesn't get overly carried away with whatever this incited passion is. Does not carry more passion than they can manage. And so they actually get to channel all of that into forward movement. The only knight, hey, here's the Knight of Pentacles. He's, they, he, she, they have been absent for a minute. They're starting to come back now. The Knights of Pentacles are starting to come back. Because for a minute, it was literally Knight of Swords, Knight of Cups, Knight of Wands. I'm like, where's the Knight of Pentacles? If I saw it, I had to go looking for it. The only knight that crosses the finish line, Knight of Pentacles, like, I'm on my grind. Like, I'm doing what I need to do. I'm doing what I need to do to get where I need to be. Knight of Pentacles is trustworthy, understanding, devoted, and funny. It says there is so much to accomplish. Make a very detailed plan. Being watched over by someone kind. So this being watched over by someone kind, if you are in a space of not knowing what to do or needing more information, make sure you seek out sources that have your best interest at heart, or that are at the very least truly neutral. Because if you go to a self-serving energy, that self-serving energy will tell you whatever. I just watched the movie Coco for the first time last night, and I don't want to spoil it, but the dude says, seize your moment, whatever the cost. And so it's very much that there's an energy of that here, but with Yasad, it's about holding the spiritual understanding. It's about not being so in the physical that you're not open to receiving what is spiritual. Because when you're too ingrained or too enmeshed with money and physical matters, it disrupts your intuition. And what I originally had for this is this clear quartz, but I traded it out for the star earring because accessories was the name of the game today apparently. And so there is this with the clear quartz. It is about being open to spirit, but when you're too consumed or concerned with the physical side of things, it limits your ability to listen to your intuition more genuinely. Because then it's like it makes it easier for us to confuse, speaking of Flavros again, it makes it easier for us to confuse programming for intuition. And again, it's not necessarily for us to not be in this Page of Cups energy, because I feel like a certain openness is necessary when we're navigating these spaces of transition. But at the same time, it's to be a little bit more practical or analytical, to the point where we're not just being taken advantage of by anyone and everyone, and that we're doing what is necessary, even when inconvenient, to get that knowledge and information. And again, one of the themes here has been like, what you once thought was helpful, you may actually discover isn't. And what you were once told to avoid, or what you were directed away from, might be where that truth, or a truth, or something more authentic actually lies. Well, where it is, where something true lies. Is that a riddle? Is it? I don't know. Where something true lies? Is that Flavro's energy? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, that's what I got for pile 3. Don't be afraid to say that you don't know if you don't know. Don't be afraid to seek out multiple sources of information. And don't be afraid to question it, right? Because if something is true, it should be able to be questioned. So that's what I got. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make it even better. I will catch y'all whenever I catch y'all. Have a good one. Happy full moon in Taurus. That's blue. And also Halloween.